departed. I've come here today to pay tribute to your memory. Others have too. For the life that was, and the life that is, and the life that is yet to be. For the life that was, I will say it was a good life. It did not seem so at the time. It was a good life that was obscured by the projection of pain, sorrow, and treachery. I say it was a good life, not just because there is a benefit that occurs when your soul is ripped apart and you're left to pick up the pieces, and when you put it back together, you transform and transcend. But also because in spite of this projection of devastation, I knew that there was love in the world. These are the memories that let me know there was love to be had. My favorite memory of my mother happened when I was 5 years old, and we were traveling through Paraguay, just my mother and I. I will never forget. We were aboard a public bus that was alive, to say the least. There was all these Guarani people aboard the bus. My Spanish was coming along pretty good, but I would only catch a word or two due to Guarani language that is taught in many parts. Paraguay is the only South American country that has Spanish and an original indigenous language, Guarani, printed on its money. It was an old school bus. It looked like it was falling apart at the seams. The inside wasn't much better. There was a symphony of noise, smells, and general confusion that the local folks took in stride. There was one word my fertile brain did understand, and that was chipas, a Paraguayan pastry that is sold by street vendors. There is cheese that is mixed with the dough prior to baking. It has to maintain heat once it's removed from the oven, or the bread will turn into a brick, a culinary feat that is ritualistically preserved. The taste is beyond belief if you manage to not burn your tongue on the hot cheese. The bus was racing a snail. The smart money was on the snail. The snail didn't have as many pit stops. Every 5 miles or so, the bus would pull into dock at the local bus yard. A crowd of people and their farm animals would scuttle off the bus, while other animals with their farm people would shuffle on board. It was a sweltering hot day. Had there been an AC, it would have gone on strike. The only modern cooling apparatus was a small fan in front of the driver. Its purpose was to keep the bugs at bay. All noises being produced were good-natured. If these folks had a sense of time or a practical application for time, they didn't let on. I was in sensory heaven. While firmly anchored to my seat, lest I get lost in the scuttling and the shuffling, I was gazing out the window at other exotic activity. Even if I was full on chipas, I would still enjoy their parade along with other street vendors. Paraguayans are big on trust and customer service. In the reverse process of a drive-thru, the outside vendors would peddle their wares to their customers through the open windows. If you made a purchase and were not in the immediate area of an open window, you would hand your cash to your fellow man, who, through a series of relays, would get it to the vendor. Your change in purchase would be returned in the same fashion. Communication and money moved from hand to hand. If you felt slightly anxious, you could just relax and allow the street musicians to serenade your worries away. Tips always appreciated. One's entire grocery list could be purchased in this fashion. My strategic location at an open window left me the centerpiece of many transactions. My Anglo face made me the center of much attention. After about 3 successful land docks, my mother's anxiety melted away. My happiness and enthusiasm rubbed off on her. By this time, of course, nature was calling to both of us, and we disembarked the creaky vessel to find a toilet. That was also an experience. By this time, my mother could see that there was no particular hurry to catch the bus. A good leg stretching was ideal. We strolled around the loading dock and came across a young boy about my age who was selling gum. I noticed his dirty, bare, rough feet, and he noticed my clean tennies and socks. My mother noticed something else. She proceeded to ask him through a series of gestures and motions, Spanish was out, if he wanted to have a clean pair of shoes to wear. His smile, of horizontal proportions, and his vertically wobbling head said it all. She hollered for the shoe salesman. He came right over. She then hollered for the sock vendor. She was there in a jiff. After she made the purchase, she noticed his feet were too dirty to put clean socks on. My mother then proceeded to find a bucket of water, soap, and a clean towel. The people around her helped her locate these items. She then proceeded to wash and dry the little boy's feet. She then put the shoes and socks on his feet. The little boy was moved to tears, as were the people around him. The memory of the sheer joy on that little boy's feet at the hands of a stranger's act of kindness will forever blaze in my heart. This was in 1985. For the life that is, I say it is a great life. My favorite memory of my eldest brother Emmanuel. When I was 9 years old, and me and my brother Jonathan, who was 11, were living in Bahia Blanca in Argentina. Bahia Blanca means White Bay in English. Our big brother Manoli was there for a visit, a welcome rest from the company of our ogre stepfather. It was about 7 a.m., and we had just enjoyed a morning coffee. My immediate older brother Jonathan and I had just followed our brother Manoli out for a stroll in some fresh air. It was a cool start of the day. The frost was still out, and a sweet cold breeze was blowing. As we walked through the yard, Manoli told us there was a bear by the woods. We laughed as I told him it was only a raccoon climbing a tree. He asked if we had ever smoked before. We told him that kids shouldn't smoke. He laughed and said that we were going to smoke air. You can't smoke air, Jonathan said. Oh really, said Manoli, watch this. He then took a breath of cold air and held his breath. He then blew out his breath with a steady flow. It really did look like he was smoking. Try it, he said. We did. It was uplifting. We laughed and talked as we enjoyed our smoke. Ah, Daniel. It was not that long ago you left us. Your departure from your own hand took my soul with you. I will never forget my favorite memory of Daniel. It was September of 1997. I had just departed for good the presence of my dad. I was staying with my then oldest brother Peter. We stayed in a tiny efficiency while he went to Texas State University in Austin, Texas. Since my departure of my former life, I had visited with Peter and Daniel, but not both at the same time. This was the first time that the three of us had simultaneously been in the same place at the same time. Daniel had brought over his girlfriend with him. He was deeply in love. They were both going to UT in Austin. Daniel had a flask of whiskey and a pack of American spirits. The reunion of brothers and vibe of love in the air was electrifying. As we drank, smoked, broke bread, and laughed and talked till it hurt, I knew life didn't get much better than this. To the life that is yet to be, it will be a wonderful life. P.S. Something is currency because of the belief value of it. Laughter is the sound that occurs when emotions understand each other. Alright. Thank y'all so much for coming here and for letting us be here and for looking after our people. It's very grateful. Thank you so much.